Canucks are playing later today, I get that. This video's lifespan may not be too long because everybody's attention is going to be shifted to that Seattle game once the game comes and goes, but either way, I wanted to make a video talking about Andrei Kuzmenko. Because we had ourselves some rumors popping up earlier today from Kevin Weeks and Rick Dhaliwal on Twitter regarding the Canucks and their status update with the Russian forward. So let's go over on a Dhaliwal. This is what he had said earlier today. It's an interview with agent Dan Milstein on Kuzmenko. The process has started, Milstein says. We've established the ground rules. The preference for me is a short-term bridge deal. We will continue to talk. There then was another quote from Milstein saying that Andrei absolutely loves Vancouver and the fans. It is my job to try and work out a deal. I'm hopeful we can get something done. You then had yourselves Kevin Weeks saying that I'm told via the Kuzmenko camp that they've had discussions on a contract extension and there's no urgency. There could be a potential bridge deal that lands in the 2-year, $5 to $6 million AAV range. The situation remains fluid. And so I wanted to make this video sort of as a conversation as to why the Canucks could sign Kuzmenko, why they could trade him away, why either of these options honestly make a little bit of sense each way, and it's kind of a difficult decision, at least in my opinion. You see, there are a lot of people that would go out there and immediately assume, okay, wait a minute, Kuzmenko is expiring. Why not trade him away? The Canucks need to rebuild, like, trade away Bo, trade away Brock, trade away Kuzmenko, trade away Garland, trade away everybody, just start from scratch. And while that is a philosophy that makes a lot of sense, the idea of keeping Kuzmenko around is one that also makes sense in my mind as well, mostly because Kuzmenko is a player that we have never really seen before in the NHL. A first-year, one-season-long contract that is this freaking good, and who could potentially be young enough to quote-unquote keep around during a rebuild. Andrei Kuzmenko is only 26 years old. This is a guy that if he had been drafted into the NHL, he would have been taken in 2014. He's the same age as William Nylander and Nikolai Ehlers. And this season, the guy has 43 points in 46 games played. 21 goals, 22 assists. He is on pace for an 81-game campaign of 37 goals and 76 total points. Kuzmenko is a legitimately good player who, in my opinion, is young enough to say that if you wanted to build around this guy as well as Elias Pettersson, there's an opportunity to do that. However, because he is a player that is so good, he is so cheap, he's only making $950,000 this season, and he is expiring, there is the potential to trade him away to some sort of a contender and get some draft capital back. This is where the backlash, or not the backlash, but like the opposing opinions sort of come in too, because I've been seeing this pop up a lot on social media, especially Twitter, the past little while here, that if the Canucks traded away Kuzmenko to a contender, they're likely going to get a first-round pick back. Okay, that's pretty good. They might get some other stuff back too, maybe get another prospect or whatever, but like, at the end of the day, if you're trading Kuzmenko away, you're getting a first. That's pretty much the meat and potatoes of it. But the thing is, if you get a first-round pick from a contender, that's probably a 20-plus overall pick that you're not really going to see too much action out of in the NHL until, what, 2026? It's 2023 right now. If you're drafting a guy today, that probably isn't a player who is guaranteed to being as good as Kuzmenko is right now, nor is he guaranteed to even making the team anytime in the near future. The thing is, with Elias Pettersson and the Pettersson contract re-signing, is that you kind of have to sell PD on the vision the Canucks have today. Not just for the future, but also for the next few years. His contract expires in 2024, and that's when he's probably going to get the big bucks. During this summer in 2023, this is when the contract extension process for PD is open to happening, and because you don't want to have a Tkachuk-Gaudreau situation with Pettersson, you're likely going to want to have this guy re-signed as soon as freaking possible, like this summer, as soon as you can. So, if you trade away a guy like Andrei Kuzmenko, who has been a very good player with Elias Pettersson, they've had some insane chemistry. Kuzmenko is a really good piece to play on this team that is young enough that I feel could justify signing him and bringing him back, and whose return you would have to wait a while to actually get into the NHL and be productive. There's an argument that goes out there and says that Kuzmenko getting re-signed is not the worst thing in the world if you're able to trade away some other contracts. Now, this is all circumstantial. There are a few things that this hinges on. Firstly, you have to make sure that the Kuzmenko party is asking for a fair deal. If it's a 2-year deal, $5-6 million AAV, I think a $5-6 million contract for a guy who is as good as Kuzmenko is pretty good. It's just if Kuzmenko ends up becoming as good as a guy like Artemi Panarin, for example, and he's posting up 100 points by the time 2025 rolls around, you're going to have to re-sign into an even bigger contract at that time stage. So A, it depends on Kuzmenko's party and what they want as a contract. B, it also depends on the Canucks and their own availability for money. If they're able to trade away guys like Besser, they're able to trade away guys like maybe Miller, they're able to trade away guys like Garland, free up some cap from the players that already have committed to them, then re-signing Kuzmenko, I think, is a pretty appropriate deal. If you get rid of that Besser contract, and then let's say you just cut and paste the Besser dollar amount and give it to Kuzmenko instead, I feel like that's a pretty good deal, honestly, because Kuzmenko is just so much better than Brock that I feel a lot more comfortable with that sort of money on him instead, as difficult as it is to say. Here's a conversation that I wanted to show you from Twitter that kind of goes over this entire thing. Dill replies to the Kevin Weeks tweet saying, "I get that Kuzmenko has been unreal, but don't the Canucks want to rebuild? What's the plan? They could easily get a first for him in a stacked 2023 draft." Canucks Place then replies saying, "The thing is, Kuzmenko is still 26. A rebuild doesn't have to apply to all of your roster players. He's been so good with Pettersson that he's likely a factor in whether Pettersson sticks around. You can sell Horvat, Besser, Garland, half of your top 6, and keep Kuzmenko too." And this is why it's so difficult. He is really good, and he could probably fetch a pretty alright return, but he's young enough that he fits within the timeline of what the Canucks would probably try to do heading into the future. I mean, Elias Pettersson was drafted in 2017. Kuzmenko's draft-eligible year would have been 2014. That's only a difference of 3 years. And the thing is, there are differing tiers of players who are in this age range. JT Miller, for example, is a guy who's a tad older. Bo Horvat is a guy who is a tad older, too. The thing is, with Bo, he is going to be so expensive that at this point the Canucks are kind of tied to the chair. They need to make a move for this guy because they're not going to be able to sign him. If for Kuzmenko they're able to give him a contract that is, let's just say, in that $6 million AAV range, then I'm sort of feeling a lot more comfortable keeping him around because he's not priced himself out of Vancouver in the same way that Bo Horvat has. Plus, Andrei Kuzmenko is a much bigger part, I feel, to enticing a guy like Elias Pettersson to stay in Vancouver than Bo, mostly because Pettersson plays with Kuzmenko and they play really well together. Like, this is probably the best line mate Pettersson has ever had. And I'm saying that including the 649 line. I'm talking about Brock when he was better. I'm talking about JT Miller when Miller was brand new for the Canucks. This is a really good duo, Pettersson and Kuzmenko. So you can talk in the comments on your thoughts. The Canucks play the Kraken later today. We'll see how they fare under Game 2 with Rick Tocchet, but let me know your thoughts on this Kuzmenko thing, the updates, the trade rumors, the signing rumors, all your thoughts whether or not the Canucks should re-sign him or should keep him around, or if they should just send him off for a draft pick that's not going to help him out until 2026 when Elias Pettersson is 28 years old. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99, and bye.